Hi everyone, this is Tana with Jupiter's Garden. Today's video will be showing a snail roll fail along with some continued success with that method. And I'm starting outdoors today. I want to show you the covered beds that I have going. So they're prepped and ready for next week's planting of greens and brassicas. There's 3 of them back there. 2 are about 7 feet long. This one's maybe 10 feet long. I have them covered with arches of like wire mesh and then with some 4mm plastic, and they will be perfect for getting an early start on my greens and brassicas. In today's video, I'm going to be giving another update on my seed snail rolls. I'm going to show you the reservations I have with this method, some of the problems I've had with it, and also what I think it's good for. So I previously showed the petunias that I had going in a seed snail, and I originally thought that I would possibly be able to grow these petunias in that same snail roll until they were ready to plant out. Yeah, I was a bit hasty in making that assessment. The petunias started to look a little bit peaked, just not optimally healthy. So I decided to up pot them. When I did that, I unrolled the snail roll and could see that at the base of the stem was just a little bit weak. So I'm thinking that while the snail roll allows for really great downward root development, that it does not allow for the best lateral root development. This is just my observation, my assumption based off my observation. The snail roll also doesn't, like usually when I grow them in, I'm going to show you this verbena seedling as an example. So in the little pots, it just leaves a nice, a good ball of soil there with the roots in it. I don't know how else to describe it. Just a nice, a substantial amount of soil around the roots. The snail rolls, as I'll show in just a moment, it's a thinner section of soil, and when you go to transplant them, there's a lot more exposed roots without a whole lot of soil wrapped around them to protect them. And so that, at least in the petunias case, led to some transplant shock. So I will put a picture up here now of, I took a snapshot of the petunias maybe about a half an hour after I had transplanted them, and they were all wilting. They looked terrible. It's been about a week or so. Set that guy down. Yeah, probably about a week. The petunias they're looking better than they did, but they definitely, you can definitely see the damage. And they're just a bit wonky. So they really suffered from substantial transplant shock. I still have some discolored leaves. I'm gonna go through and remove all those discolored leaves. And the plants themselves just look a bit, they just don't look happy. They did not enjoy their transplant experience at all. So granted, I did let them get really big in that snail roll. And that's one of the things I think that if anyone's going to try this method, I think it's best to only let them get to a certain point in the snail roll. Start them later in the snail roll, or yeah, at least not let them get big like these petunias. That was a fail. So because of the petunias, what happened with them, I had feverfew and chamomile seedlings in snail rolls. They were real little. They weren't big like the petunia ones. So I decided to go ahead and up pot them while they were small and hopefully mitigate some transplant shock with those plants. And they're doing great. They actually, as soon as I up potted them into these bigger pots, they just took off. These are the feverfew. So I'm happy with those. And the chamomile seedlings are also doing great. These are very tiny, and they're doing great in their 4-inch pot or 2-inch pot. All right, so let's unroll this parsley and see how it goes. Zap it. Come on. Another thing that I found is tricky with the seed snails is watering them. It's because of the small amount of exposed space on the top, it's tricky to water the whole roll evenly. And bottom watering is just not as effective as it would be with small pots. So I actually used some of this parsley the other day for dinner. So some of these seedlings have the tops snipped off. You interested in that, Zaps? And as you unroll the snail roll, that in itself disturbs the roots because you're kind of, you know, putting pressure on them outward. And especially the center of the roll is really hard to undo flat without disturbing a bunch of roots. So I'm just going to gently separate these. And I think I am going to snip out some of the smaller plants and just go ahead and just eat those. So this one here has a decent amount of root ball with it, but again, it just feels a little weak at the top. That guy should be fine, but we'll see. These are already separating a lot easier than the petunias did. And I feel like parsley can handle more root disturbance than petunias, so I'm hoping for less transplant shock with these. These right here, there's some that are really close together. Oops, there's roots with no plant. Okay. I'm going to snip out this one too. So I did sacrifice quite a few seedlings here, and had I been growing these in separate cells, I wouldn't have needed to do that. But I'll just use this in the kitchen, and I would rather do that than have more damaged plants. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I have 9 of them here. So I'll go ahead and pot these up. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pot these up. Yeah, and again, it feels a little flimsy. Last one here. Oops. So here's our up-potted parsley seedlings. We will check back in an hour or so and see how they're looking, just to observe them for any signs of transplant shock. But I'm hoping these will do better than the petunias did. Okay, so it's not just an hour later, it is the next day. And I brought you down here to check out the parsley seedlings and see how they're doing. Excuse me, Zappa. And I think they're looking great. I don't think they suffered much, if not any, transplant shock at all. So I'm happy about that. Now I still have some lettuce going in the snail rolls. The lettuce is doing fantastic. I don't have very many concerns about transplanting shock with the lettuce. And then I also still have the onions going in the snail rolls. Very shaggy, overgrown onions here. I sort of haphazardly trimmed them back last week. I don't normally trim my onion seedlings, but they were out of control. They just grew so fast in the snail roll, much faster than if they were in a 50 cell tray or a flat, which is how I usually do them. But I think this method is also great for onions. Onions and lettuce and parsley, but maybe not petunias. So there you go. Thanks for joining me or us in this video, and I look forward to next week being able to take you outside for some outdoor gardening finally. Can't wait for spring.